The problem with eco-friendly midsoles is that they're generally not any good. But this is the Saucony Triumph 21 RFG, and it's made using 55% corn-based foam. It's time to find out if it's an eco-friendly shoe worth running. Yo, what's going on everybody? My name is Kofuzi and I'm a non-elite runner who reviews shoes here on YouTube. And today I want to talk to you guys about the Saucony Triumph 21 Run for Good. But before I give you my thoughts on this shoe, I do want to go over some disclosures. This is a pair of shoes that Saucony sent to me for the purpose of review. However, they're not paying me to make this video or to use the shoe, and they're not going to get a chance to preview any of my footage or my thoughts before you guys get a chance to see this video on YouTube. So with that disclosure out of the way, let's talk about the Saucony Triumph 21 RFG. First, let's talk about what makes it eco. And it's got a couple of things, and it's not just about the midsole foam, although that is a big part of the story. Normally in the Saucony Triumph, we're used to seeing Power Run Plus, which is a beaded TPU-based foam. And I've been really enjoying it in the past couple of years. But this time in the Triumph 21 RFG, we've got Power Run Bio Plus, which is a 55% corn-based foam, which is fantastic because it still looks and feels like Power Run Plus, but now we're not relying so much on plastics to make this midsole. In addition to the changes in the midsole composition, we also have 80% gum rubber. You know, I love a good gum outsole. This one looks fantastic, but it also, again, is less reliant on petrochemicals in order to make this material. Up top, we have an upper made out of cotton, and it looks a lot like the Saucony Triumph 20 of last year, but in addition to it being a non-synthetic material that's used in the upper, there also is plant-based dyes that are used in the colorization process. So now let's talk about whether those eco features are any good. And let's start off with the specs on this shoe. On paper, a lot of the shoe is similar. It's still a 10mm drop shoe, just like in the regular Triumph 21 and in the regular Triumph 20 from last year, that this seems to look a lot more like in my mind. There's also the same 37mm stack height in the heel, giving us the same 27mm of stack height in the forefoot. The last of the upper seems to be the same to me, and the amount of padding that we see all around the shoe seem to be the same to me. So I feel like what Saucony has really tried to do here is give us the exact same shoe, just in a more eco-friendly form. And I really appreciate this because this gives us a chance to really compare apples to apples what's going on in the eco-based midsole foam versus the non-eco-friendly or the eco-aggressive midsole foam that we normally see in the Triumph series. And the main difference that I'm seeing between these two shoes is the weight. The men's shoe comes in at 10.4 ounces or 295 grams. The women's comes in lighter at 9.7 ounces or 275 grams. And that's quite a bit heavier than the non-eco versions that exist for both the men and the women, with the men being 0.6 ounces heavier and the women's being 0.9 ounces heavier. So now it's time to put the gum rubber to the road and talk about what it was like to actually run in these two shoes. And I'm very happy to report that I really enjoy this Power Run Bio Plus midsole material. It is an eco-friendly midsole foam that I don't mind running in. I had to actually think for a little while about whether there's any difference between the 21 RFG or the 20 that I ran in last year. And I had a hard time at first really picking apart what the differences were when it comes to running in the Triumph 21 RFG. I do think it is a little bit firmer than the Power Run Plus that we normally see in the Triumph series, but it still felt like a foam that had plenty of impact absorption that also bounced off the ground really well. So it made for a very pleasant running experience. And I think that the only time that I really noticed a big difference was on a longer run that I took the shoe on. By the time I got over about a dozen miles in the shoe, the more I kind of started to notice that I think this Triumph is a little bit different than the other Triumphs that I run in before, and that slight extra firmness started to become a little bit more noticeable. But on my everyday runs and some of my shorter runs that I've taken this shoe on, it really feels like a fantastic shoe, and it's one of those Folgers Crystals switches where you could switch out their regular foam with the eco-based foam and they really wouldn't notice too much. Now, since then, I've also taken both of these shoes and kind of done that thing that I normally really dislike doing, but because the 20 and the 21 appear to be so similar. I put the 20 on my right foot and the 21 RFG on my left foot to kind of feel in real time what the differences are between the two. And one thing to keep in mind is that I've got 100 miles or a little bit more than that in my Triumph 20s, and the 21 RFGs are pretty much brand new out of the box. They've got maybe about 20 miles in them, 30 miles in them at this point. So there are going to be naturally some differences there, but I felt like the 20 definitely in a head-to-head or foot-to-foot comparison felt like it was a little bit more softer, and especially in the forefoot, I felt like I was sinking into the foam in a pleasant way, just a little bit more. So I had just a little extra bit of cushion and softness in it compared to the Power Run Bio Plus. And again, I was feeling that slight extra bit of firmness there. But overall, I feel like this is really great progress in the terms of eco-friendlier foams that are out there. In previous discussions I've had with Saucony, I know that this is something that they've been thinking about and working on for a really long time. And so for them to be able to finally launch a product that uses less oil, but also still is fun to run in, I think is a really fantastic thing. Now, normally the Triumph is already a shoe that I'm recommending to my bigger, taller friends, because I think that you're really going to like the dynamics in terms of the way that the Power Run Plus compresses and decompresses as you're going through your gait cycle. And I'm especially going to recommend this Power Run Bio Plus to my bigger, taller friends as well. I think that you guys are just gonna absolutely love this, using it as your daily trainer, and you're gonna find that it has a decent amount of versatility too, because as you're compressing that foam, it gives you back a nice amount of pop. So you're gonna be able to use this for your daily training, and maybe even some of your faster paced runs as well. So now let's take the analysis one step further, and let's kind of put aside the eco-friendly aspects of the shoe and really drill down into what this shoe is like and start comparing it to other just running shoes that are out there on the market. And if you're gonna build a rotation around the Triumph 21 RFG, I feel like there's a lot of really great options for you to do that, and they're not necessarily going to be eco-friendly. But if you like what the Triumph 21 RFG is doing, I think from a race perspective, you could definitely keep it in the Saucony family and go with the Endorphin Elite. I feel like there's a lot of similarities in kind of the DNA in both of these shoes. I feel like both in terms of the way that the forefoots are shaped and the way that they're intending for you to land, roll through, and push off in your foot strike, there are going to be some familiar aspects to both of these shoes. Now, in terms of the weight spectrum and the speed spectrum and the materials used in the shoe, it's pretty much on the opposite end of the spectrum. But if you're doing all your daily training miles in the 21 RFG, look to the Endorphin Elite for your race day option. Now, if you need a workout shoe to kind of bridge the gap in between these, I think let's leave the Saucony family for just a moment and let's take a look at the Brooks Hyperion Max. This is a shoe that uses Brooks DNA Flash midsole foam. It's a nitro infused midsole foam that's very fun to run in for fast up-tempo type of workouts. It's a taller stack height shoe that's got a little bit more foam to it. It's a little bit on the dense side at easy paces, but that density comes in very nice and handy as you start running a bit faster. And I feel like it can make a nice 1-2 punch for your easy days and your workout days to have those two. So I think those three together though could make for a really fun running rotation. Now let's look at the buying guide and some of the pricing for this shoe. The Triumph 21 RFG comes in at $160, which kudos to Saucony. That's the exact same price that you're gonna be paying for the Triumph 21. But let's look at some of the other competition and see kind of where that $160 comes in at. The next shoe that I think that is a natural competitor to the Triumph and has been a perennial competitor to the Triumph comes from New Balance, and that's going to be the New Balance 1080. This is the version 13. It's not quite out yet at the time of filming of this video. It's going to be releasing October 13th, but this is a shoe that's just on the horizon and it's got a lot of brand new updates, and I think that this is a useful comparison to look at these two shoes. I feel like the Fresh Foam X, which is not an eco-based foam in the 1080 version 13, is really fun. I love the tweaks that they've made to this shoe. I haven't even reviewed this shoe yet. That's coming up about a week from now, the time this video publishes. But to preview it, it's a really fun update. It looks like they've really toned it down and made it boring, but it's a lot more fun. Now, this shoe comes in at $165, which I find super annoying because I feel like this is like New Balance's way of trying to like slowly creep up the price. And I already feel like $160 for these kind of like cushioned daily trainers or max cushion shoes is a very high price already. I'm not saying it's not a fair price, but it's just still a lot of money. And so for them to go to $165 is kind of annoying, but I do feel like if you are someone that likes kind of what these cushioned daily trainers or lightweight max cushion shoes, depending on which angle you want to look at it from, if you like that kind of shoe and want it to be a little bit more pace versatile, in other words, being able to go a little bit faster and be a little bit more nimble, then I feel like the 1080 version 13 is the one to pick, even though it is annoyingly $5 more expensive. Now, the other shoe that I think is worth looking at when you're looking at the Triumph 21 RFG is another shoe that I recently reviewed, and that's the Adidas Boston 12. Now, I didn't love it as a Boston shoe in the Adidas lineup and in the heritage of what the Boston shoe should be. But I do know a lot of you think that this is a fantastic daily trainer, and I'm going to agree with you on that. I think that the wider kind of flanges in the back of this shoe and the density of that Light Strike 2 in conjunction with the Light Strike Pro that's in the forefoot of the shoe make it for a really comfortable daily trainer. And I feel like that's also where the Triumph 21 RFG sits. I also feel like these are two shoes that are really great for people that want something that's a little bit denser, a little bit more firm to give them some stability as they're running their easy miles. And the Boston 12 comes in at $160, but I feel like the toughest competitor to the Triumph 21 RFG is going to be the Saucony Triumph 20. This is a shoe that I absolutely loved last year, and I still think it's a fantastic shoe. On Saucony's website, you can get this shoe in some other colors for $110 right now. So if you are looking to save a couple of bucks, get the Triumph 20 now. Then later on, when you're done with that shoe and the Triumph 20 is no longer available for purchase, you can bump up to the 21 RFG. So those are my thoughts on the Triumph 21 RFG. Let me know in the comments if you have any other questions, or better yet, stop by the live stream that I do Monday through Friday over on the Kofuzi Run Club channel. I'd love to talk to you guys in the chat. That's all I have for today, everybody. Thanks so much for making it all the way to the end of this video. Hopefully you guys are staying safe out there on your runs, and I will see you in the next one.
Yo, what's going on?